Oh, let me hit go live on Instagram here. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining LivLive episode 12. It is the first day of October already, which means it's the start of Q4 for all you business owners out there. Time has been flying, but I'm really excited to have David Hercules here as our guest. David is awesome designer, owner, founder of Hercules Design Build in St. Louis, Missouri. One of my favorite names ever, both the David and the Hercules. Is pretty awesome. So thanks for being here, Dave.
Sure, no problem. Good to see you, Dave.
Yeah, likewise. So we've known each other we were just kind of talking about it, probably 6 or 7 years. As we talk about our kids' ages now, we were in Remodelers Advantage group together, so we know each other's businesses kind of inside and out. I think by now, know each other pretty well. And you were just in Denver a couple weeks ago at the Remodelers Summit as a speaker. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there, but I'd love to kind of talk a little bit about that, hear what that was all about. How did it go?
Well, as usual, the summit was a very high value event. If I could peg, kind of one theme from this year's summit, it was a lot about AI, which I know is something that's been of particular interest to you. And, all of us as business owners, AI is swirling around out there, and we all have to pay attention to one degree or another to what's happening in the technology field. But there was just some really interesting things brought up about how AI is changing things in business generally and remodeling specifically.
Are you guys using it a lot for different functions? How are you guys leveraging it?
I've dabbled in it. In the company, there doesn't seem to be a early adopter mindset amongst the team. So I think there might be a little bit of dabbling happening. Actually, my wife has really embraced AI. Like, we call him Chad, but like she's got the paid Chat GPT and she's always talking to Chad. I'm like, you talking to your boyfriend again? She uses his services for planning vacations or talking about medical issues or, meal planning, all kinds of stuff. So she's embraced it, but really it's coming into play in some of the marketing stuff more than anything. So I'm paying more attention to it than anyone else in the company at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting that's kind of the direction where when you were saying your wife was looking for vacations and things of that nature. So yeah, people are going outside of Google search or whatever other search engine that they're using, Alta Vista, right? Something like that, to just going straight to GPT and saying, this is what I'm thinking about. Now, have you used GPT to kind of search for Hercules and understand where you sit in their world?
I've used, now you go into Google and it has an AI summary. So I've certainly paid attention to what that is saying about us. And actually, I was pretty excited to see what the Google AI is saying about us. I don't know that I have personally searched us through ChatGPT, although I'm sure my wife has at 3 a.m. when she wakes up and can't go back to sleep. But I did have a client contact me for a potential commercial project. And I asked, like I always do, how did you find us? And he said, I put a search into ChatGPT and you were one of the 3 companies it gave me. And so I'm like, okay, I need to start paying attention to what these AI search, whatever you call them. I don't know if it's a search engine or just the AI, what they're discovering about us and what they're saying about us. But it must have been positive because we were one of the 3 companies that it came up for these people.
Yeah, we've had a couple leads that have come from it, which had me start to think and dig in a little bit more. And I'm curious what people were saying at Summit. So one thing that I love about GPT is for our culture, is it has us answering more questions or asking more questions. So you don't just say, ChatGPT, how do I become, or how what's a great remodeler in my area? I want to build an addition and test it. You can test it, but then you can say, hey, I'm the owner of this company. How can I make myself show up, make my company show up in GPT? And then it says this stuff. And when I did that, it says, house presence. And then I said, why? Like, we're kind of anti-house these days, right? Because they're trying to become their own lead gen system. Like, they've really evolved that whole model to what they do to support.
Right.
So then it just went into this whole conversation that I was having with GPT about why I don't like house. But it has us digging deeper and deeper and asking more questions because of those responses. And so, yeah, I think some of the things I learned from it, and this was a while ago, probably 6 months ago, was house has a big presence, or did at that point, and GPT, and also Reddit is becoming kind of a big deal. So I'm trying to figure out, like, how do we participate as a business on a Reddit platform, which is something that I never really thought about. Did you hear anything about Reddit at Summit?
I didn't hear anything about Reddit. There were two things that kind of stood out to me that I did hear. And, they had kind of a panel of people who were like really steeped in using AI and seemed to be really super early adopters of a lot of the technology, and they really study it. And one thing that was brought up is that AI, if you use AI to generate content, like for your website or a blog, and as a business owner, if you're just like, hey, AI, write me an article about this, and then you just put it in there, which is kind of a lazy way to generate content, right? Because you're just asking AI to do it for you. The AI searches will ignore that. Like, the AI knows that when you cheated and just used AI, and it will just ignore it.
Because it becomes oversaturated, right?
And it knows, and it knows how to somehow look for authentic content. Like, it is really looking for original, authentic content. And so if you want to get noticed by the AI searches, taking the time to really put value into what you're putting out there is really the key, which I took as a positive. So if, like, if we're taking the time to do it right, then companies that want to shortcut and just use AI to do everything are not going to get noticed. You have to go in with authentic content so that AI recognizes you as an expert and your company as a leader in the field. And then I forgot the second one, but I'll remember it in a second. So,
I think that makes a lot of sense, though. I think it presents an opportunity for authentic creativity, right?
Yes.
Thinking outside the box to be a little bit different. I'm sure the creative industries are seeing it too in music, right? Now AI can literally write me a song. How do I make that?
Oh yeah.
Real and authentic?
But it's not saying something authentic from you,
right?
Right.
Well, that's cool. And then, so what was your talk? Did you talk about AI?
I didn't talk about AI. Oh, but I remember the second thing. The second thing is that Google searches have dropped off precipitously, like 30-something% year to date. So people are not just doing the old Google search, which is going to change the way we need to respond from a marketing standpoint. But what is rising exponentially fast is this phenomenon called zero-click searches, where people will use an AI and they will search, say they want the best remodeler that can build an addition in a certain part of town, and they will get detailed and they'll put in a search. It will come up with a list of potential companies, but they are not clicking on those links from the search. They are then doing additional research and then going directly to a website and maybe contacting or whatever. So what's happening is that it's becoming more and more impossible to trace the effectiveness of your marketing and where those leads are really coming from. Like, did they do a search? What did they search for when they found you? Because there's a disconnect between the search and them actually contacting you. It's called a zero-click search. So this person who brought this up was like, we're heading into a thing where, like, you're going to have to put out there what you're all about and just hope people will find you, but you're not going to really know how they found you or what worked. You're just going to have to do it. And what's going to come, that was another sort of interesting revelation.
No, I could see
about
that.
how
That was a really big shift. I mean, I don't even know time wise, right? Like probably 15 years ago, where all of a sudden your URL didn't matter, right? Like livecompanies.com didn't matter because everyone was accessing you through search. Now they search for stuff, they see a name, everyone knows that they're getting tracked, and as soon as they're going to do that, they're going to be remarketed with all this stuff. It's going to show up there for forever. You shop for a pillow, and that pillow is going to show up, in your everything that you look at for the next year of your life. So they're just typing that in. So now it's like the URL does kind of matter if people are getting a visual on you through search. But I do. So I'm just looking at my own personal behavior because I do that same thing, especially if it's an ad at the top. There's no way I'm clicking on that.
Right.
I'm going to go through and find the one that's not an ad.
Agreed.
Which then I don't know if they have to pay for that ad either. So Google doesn't really like that because you pay per click, right?
Yep.
Maybe if you come up in the list and there's an ad, but Google doesn't get that tracked. But one place where I do click often is in the Google My Business. I go to the website from there. So I do feel like the GMB page still carries some significant weight. I don't know if that's what you're hearing too.
I haven't heard one way or another, but that makes sense. I think what's happening, Dave, is that, and what they said is, in 3 years, it's going to look totally different than now. Like the traditional Google search will be dead. What exactly it's going to look like, nobody seems to quite know. They just know it's changing rapidly, and we all have to just try to adapt the best we can. But what I kind of took out of it is that, the more concrete information we can put out there about what we're, as a company, what we're great at doing and what our focus is and how we approach projects, I see it as, the AI is going to be a better matchmaker. It's almost like match.com for companies and potential clients, because as like we have a certain very narrow subset of people that are looking for remodeling of some sort. Like there's a narrow subset that we know we are perfectly suited for. And there's a whole bunch of people that, we're not perfectly suited for. They probably should be with a different company, right? And we should work with a different client. And so I see, and I hope that what's evolving is that we will get a small number of great leads that are perfect for our company. And they don't have to sift through 50 companies. And we don't have to sift through 50 clients to get the 2 or 3 best ones for us. That matchmaking ability will get more sophisticated so that the people that are looking for exactly what we offer and the clients that we know are the perfect types of clients for how we operate, we're going to be able to match up, quicker and more accurately, and everybody's better off. Maybe that's idealistic.
No, I mean,
I'm hoping that's where we get,
No, right? I think that makes a lot of sense. It's just a more intelligent matchmaker with what search was trying to do, right? But then that gets convoluted at some point because of the algorithm. And now
and people paying
right?
Paying money to try to jump the line, right?
Right.
Or to try to, and then you have multiple companies paying to try to get to the same clicks, and it becomes this messy, you're bidding on search results and all these games that Google plays. We decided to stop paying Google for placement, and we're doing organic activities. You don't know this, but we switched to a different marketing company a couple months ago. And so the idea is to not pay Google to rank us and just get out of that game completely and focus on solid content that's going to get us noticed for the right reasons. And that's really the direction we're headed.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, our marketing efforts, I think, are probably similarly aligned to what you're talking about, right? So we changed SEO companies. It was going to be a little bit more AI focused. We're doing a website rebuild, which should be out pretty soon, which is just kind of a softening of the brand and making that website faster and building out some stuff that is more valuable these days, like FAQs and things of that nature.
Right. Right.
But then, yeah, I mean, it's local sponsorships, it's just letting people know that who we are, what we're about, helping the community, more things of that nature. Right. And hopefully that helps support core values. And then fundamentally, and we don't really say it enough in our business because we're so focused on digital marketing and all this other stuff, is just knocking these projects out of the park, right? Like blowing clients away, making them wholly satisfied, like beyond their dreams, making it as easy as possible, which is easier said than done, and realistically costs money, right? Like sometimes we just have to buy ourselves out of the situation, whether it's, having to bring in extra painters or do something else just to get stuff done. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. So it's a little bit, it's to support the evolution of the AI and SEO and all that. It shifts to your original point, really hammering the authenticity, the client experience, client satisfaction areas of it, a little bit more boots on the ground and grassroots, like referral trees. Not to say that all the people in our industry that we know that just work on word of mouth were right. I don't agree with that at all, but I do think word of mouth is, going to continue to be invaluable because there's just so much information coming at everybody in the world of digital marketing.
Right? Well, the bedrock upon which all of it gets built has to be that we have a company that delivers on our promises.
Yeah.
You can't market your way out of poor customer service. You can't market your way out of a poor product or a poor experience. And I think there's companies that have tried to do that. I mean, you can find them out there where they just market like crazy and keep getting new people, but they're not necessarily generating great experiences. I think if we focus on that as the core bedrock of what we do, then you just need to, marketing really then just becomes getting people to be more aware that, yes, we are a company that delivers on what we say and does it at a high level. Anyway, so that's my way to agree with you. It's got to start with that fundamental foundation, right? Of doing a great job for people.
Yeah. And it's not Jordan Belfort, right? It's not Wolf of Wall Street. We're not selling a stock or a pen or something like that they're just going to take. It's a relationship where we're going to be working with these people for 6 to 12 months. Right? It's not about the sale conversion. It has to carry through. Otherwise it just won't work. 100%. So it's kind of cool to see some of those shifts. I will say one other piece in that world that I've heard about is Yelp being part of AI search, which that's another piece that the remodeling industry does not really appreciate, is the world of Yelp. Have you heard much about that? Are you guys on Yelp?
We have a Yelp page because years ago, I didn't even know what Yelp was, but years ago, I had a client who put a review on Yelp, and then I got some kind of a notice, and I'm like, what the hell is Yelp? So I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, look at that. She wrote great things about us on Yelp. So I went ahead and created a Yelp page. I've never paid them any money because that's, of course, what they want is businesses to pay them money. But since then, we do have a few Yelp reviews out there on our Yelp page. So we have a great rating on there. And I don't actively, push it, in terms of like, hey, leave us a review on Yelp. I ask people to leave us a review on Google reviews because, at one point I'm like, well, what do I ask them to put it on Yelp or Houzz or Google or whatever? Like you don't want to ask people to go leave 3 reviews, because getting them to leave 1 review is hard enough. So I've just settled on Google because they were kind of the 800-pound gorilla. But we do have a few good Yelp reviews out there that just organically happened. So, it's fine. And the same with Houzz. We have a few good Houzz reviews. I have a Houzz page. We've got pictures up there. We try to keep some fresh photos on there. But again, we've never paid Houzz any money for that because they always want you to pay money for more stuff. But like we've gotten a couple people that have sort of found us on Houzz, but it's out there in the mix, but it's not something we focus on, either Yelp or Houzz.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I appreciate this conversation, and as Dave and most of my other guests learn after the show, we don't really have a topic. We just kind of start talking. But this has been good because I committed, and I think it's due in about 6 weeks for this quarter to build out an AI task force at LivCo. So this has given me some different thinking on it too, right? So it's more than necessarily just workflows. It's also how AI establishes LivCo in the world too, right? But I am excited to think about different workflows and how we can leverage those tools amongst our team with consistency, right?
Oh yeah, there's any number of ways to use it for time saving. One of the things that they cautioned against was don't just have AI generate stuff and then put it out there, because AI does hallucinate. This is a term now that's out there. AI hallucinates, and they said, just like a human who might recall things differently at different times, AI is designed to act more like a human, which is why you can have a natural conversation with AI, but it's also the reason why AI can and does make mistakes, because humans can and do make mistakes. So you can't think of this like, oh, it's a computer, it's going to be right every time. No, that is the wrong way to think about AI. AI is not infallible. And so you have to think about AI as if you're talking to your buddy and they might say something, you might be going, I don't know. Okay, I know you said that, but I'm not so sure about that. You have to have that same like healthy skepticism about what AI tells you. And that's proven by the fact that if you go to your AI and you ask the same question twice on 2 different days, you will get a different answer each time. And so that proves that.
Oh no.
Excel spreadsheet where you put something in the cells and you get the answer over here, and it's the same every time. They just cautioned us not to think of AI like that. If you need a spreadsheet, then use Excel. If you want the same answer every time consistently, use the tools that are out there for that.
Yeah.
But AI is not that tool. That it can hallucinate. It can, which you hear these stories on the news, about, oh, AI told this kid to jump off a cliff or whatever, and he did it. I mean, it can do that stuff, and we need to have that sort of caution that just because AI generated it, you got to proofread it, you've got to edit it yourself and make sure it's going to get you 80% there, and it will save you time. But you've got to have that human intervention before you put it out there, or you're asking for trouble. And I thought that was a good piece of caution from them.
Yeah, I've also found it to be overly agreeable and I've talked about this before, but asked it to kind of be a little bit more critical, because you can be like, hey, should I, go play for the Carolina Hurricanes? And they're like, yes, that's a great idea. You can make a lot of money playing in the NHL. Here's how to go about that. Would you like me to list the steps? And you're like,
lace up your skates, Dave.
Right, exactly.
Go ahead. It'll make it easier for the Blues to beat you guys if you're on their team.
How the Cardinals doing, by the way?
Oh, shut up. Dude, it was pathetic. We went to one game this year and I was like, where are all the people? Like, the Cardinals always would they would average like 40,000 per game or something crazy. Like for Major League Baseball, they were always at the top for average draw, and the stadium was like a ghost town. I was there because my daughter was singing the national anthem with her choir, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun, but like there was nobody there. I'm like, oh my gosh, they suck so bad this year. It was bad, but we're hoping for a good hockey season, which is kicking off here very soon. So
can't wait. This is gonna be fun.
It'll be fun.
And no Barkov on the Panthers, so that's gonna be interesting. But I'm sure they'll still win another Stanley Cup. Anyway, We could do a sports podcast after this. You would know a lot more than I do, but
I doubt it. I just said everything I know about sports.
I do want to dig in. So I want to know what you talked about at Summit.
Okay.
You keep
bearing the headline. Sorry.
You keep deflecting.
So my topic was, see if I get the title right, how embracing failure is essential to success. And I'm going to be kind of recounting this off memory, but basically the idea was that as a business owner, understanding that, you know, having a healthy view towards failure in your organization is critical for growth, the growth of your employees, growth of the company. And that if you're resistant to the idea or the possibility of failure, you're going to stunt yourself. I mean, being a business owner encompasses risk, right? You decide to start a business, you're clearly taking risks because the whole thing could just fall apart. And then you stack on top of that, being a business owner in the construction industry, and now you've added another layer of risks like weather, materials prices, dealing with subcontractors. Okay. So now there's that extra, and then you go into remodeling in the construction business, and now you've added a third layer to the risk cake, because now in remodeling, you have additional risks like you're working in an occupied home. You are dealing with an old structure that has unknown conditions, crooked walls, old wiring, right? So we in this business are dealing with a triple layer of risk. And with embracing risk, you automatically are embracing the idea that, you know, you could fail, you could make mistakes, because with risk comes the possibility of failure, right? But going into it, like understanding that, like when something goes wrong, we can't just like lose our crap and you know, it's baked into this, right? Dave, you know this, you've done this a long time and you've experienced risk and I'm sure failures along the way, but having that idea that we're going to look at those failures as an opportunity to learn and grow and get better. And as you do that, now you can start to anticipate where the possible failure points are so that you can start to mitigate those risks in an intelligent way. And then the next step is to bake that into the culture of a company and having what's called a psychologically safe environment for our employees to also not be afraid of failure. When you have people working for you and they're scared to make a mistake, scared to fail, you're creating an unsafe environment for people to speak up. There was actually a study done in the medical field, and they tracked what they called sort of poorly performing teams, people that did not have a good teamwork environment, compared with highly performing teams in a medical situation. And what they found is that the highly performing teams actually registered more mistakes than the poorly performing teams. And the research team scratched their heads and are like, this is exactly the opposite of what we thought the result would be. Naturally, you would think the higher performing team is going to make fewer mistakes than the low performing teams. But when they dug into the data and they really started peeling back the onion, what they found was that no, the poorly performing teams actually did make more mistakes, but they reported few of them because they were scared to speak up when something went wrong. They were scared to take responsibility and say, oh man, I messed that up. Can you help me fix it? Because of the adversarial environment and the poor nature of their teams, they actually tried to bury and cover up mistakes. Whereas the higher performing teams were not afraid to say, hey, you know what? I forgot to do this. Can you help me take care of it? So there was actually the better outcomes were happening on the higher performing teams, even though they reported more mistakes. And that led this researcher down the path of the idea of a psychologically safe environment where people are willing to speak up when something goes haywire, take responsibility for it, so the whole team could rally around helping them fix it. And it wasn't a finger pointing blame game, or you're going to be reprimanded, or you're going to be, fired or whatever, So building a culture that makes it safe for people to speak up when there is a mistake or failure, so that the team can solve it, and you can move on and learn from it, and then figure out if you need to build a system or a process to prevent that from happening again. Anyway, those were some of the highlights of what I talked about, and I gave some examples of that happening or not happening in different companies and whatnot. But that was kind of the gist of it.
No, that is awesome. There is like so much to unpack there. We should have led with that, but we'll have to do another episode on it. I think that's really cool, and there's a couple sayings that always pop into my head, like Thomas Edison found 10,000 ways that a light bulb didn't work. Is like one of the.
I used that example, and there's actually a better Thomas Edison example than that even.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Because the light bulb one's famous, and the fact of the matter with the light bulb thing is they failed intentionally. It's not like every time he made a light bulb with a different coating on the filament, like he thought it was going to work. Like they knew they would have to just try. It was a trial and error thing. So that was sort of a planned thing, kind of like Elon Musk blowing up rockets to figure out the best way to make a rocket, reliable.
Yeah.
They blew him up. They basically pushed him to failure, which is another way that failure, you can embrace failure, push systems to the limit to see where the weak points are. But Thomas Edison actually invented a vote counting machine, and he took years and invested in today's dollars, like millions of dollars, into perfecting this machine. And he thought it was going to revolutionize the way governments would operate, that they could be so much more efficient because it would tally the votes without all this, present and yay and raising hands and writing it down. It would all just happen automatically. So he invented this machine, and he takes it to Congress, and they were all like, yeah, no thanks. And he's like, what are you talking about? And they said, no thanks. They preferred but they preferred to like do the horse trading and kind of leaning on each other about voting and yada, yada, yada. It was a game, and they were not interested in this. So it was a complete flop. And he learned a valuable lesson. He, again, he goes, you know what? I'm not inventing anything ever again unless I know that there's really a potential market for it. So he learned a valuable lesson, and they kept on going. Of course, he invented so many things that changed the world. But anyway, that was a Thomas Edison example that I used in addition to the whole light bulb thing.
No, that's awesome, man. And I know we always have the other saying, right? Like perfection is the enemy of profit, things like that. There's just so many variables in what we do. It's insane.
Hence the risk. That's the risk.
Yeah. And
it's like, I think of it like a boat, you get into a little dinghy, right? And there's already 200 holes in the boat, and they all just have like a piece of duct tape over them.
Why would you get into that boat, Dave?
Because we trust duct tape, Dave. We're in construction. We trust duct tape. So you get in the boat, and all of these little holes are just on the verge of springing a leak. And it's our job to try to make it across the pond without any of those pieces of duct tape falling off. And we know it's just a matter of which ones are going to let go before we get over there. And we're always just trying to combat all the little things that are trying to leak out of our projects when it comes to the profit. There's dollars. Just think of it as dollars are trying to leak out of our company. And there's 200 places in a project where dollars can leak. And we're just running around with a roll of duct tape trying to keep all of it at bay. That's just the picture I.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of. Yeah, I off the top of your head, what was in all your years, what was your most costly mistake?
Oh my gosh. You're asking me to dredge up the stuff of nightmares. Are you there? Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. A window popped in front of you and then you disappeared. My most costly mistake is probably going to involve probably some subcontractor situation, I'm going to guess. I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to think of, but we've had things where, we bought a fireplace like this one. Is one that's always bothered me, but we bought a fireplace because the designer, selected a fireplace insert and didn't really get full client buy-in on this model. And when we installed it, the client's like, I don't like that at all. And we couldn't point to a paper trail where the client actually selected that model. So we had to pull it out and buy a whole different fireplace. And that fireplace is still sitting in my shop 5 years later. And it's like, I keep bringing it up, like, find a project. So she called me actually just a few days ago. She's like, I think I sold the fireplace.
We have a sweet couch in our office. It's a beautiful couch that the clients believe that we damaged in punch or something like that. And what are we going to do?
So you bought a new couch for the client?
Yes, we bought them a new couch, right? So we have that as a reminder to protect couches and other things, right? And
maybe that saved you from a bunch more of that in the, maybe that example.
Yeah. No, we have, you mentioned the fireplace. I mean, we used to have windows that we would just hold on to because those always stunk, right? Like, obviously there's just layers and layers of remeasuring. But yeah, I mean, it's just, sometimes we check these things 3-4 times. But the toughest part of all that, I believe, in this business is most of the costly mistakes happen at the end. For us, it's typically something with countertops, cabinets, tile, right? And you're like, really? Because we're so close, you're at the finish line, and something's misordered, something got delivered broken, something isn't matched right. I mean, we're way past the days of when we used to have to tear out tile and redo it for the most part. Sometimes that happens, right? It gets set wrong or something. It's hard to stand there and tell everyone to do what to do every second of the day. So you try and put as many drawings up and everything around, but it's just another layer of that risk. And I had Greg Cantor on last week, who he's been in business. They're on their 50th year, and just talking about how stuff has evolved over the years in terms of the available options. So 20 years ago, there was a fireplace, right? Like, you just didn't choose a fireplace.
Or a couple sizes or whatever. I mean, there just wasn't a ton. Yeah.
Yeah, there weren't really a whole lot of options. And when we talked about how efficient things were in terms of a kitchen remodel, it was 4 options for sheet vinyl flooring. You didn't have can lights. You just had a light in the middle, right? There's no under cabinet lighting. You didn't have cabinet accessories. There's just, infinitely less variables. And it was much, much easier to just come in and do it, right? Now, it wasn't special. So, as our society has evolved, and cars also used to have roll down windows, that's not really a thing anymore. Now, most people won't even accept a car that doesn't have heated seats. Like, there's just things that become standard, right?
Yeah.
That weren't before. So the level of options, especially in what we do, is a standard offering. It has to be in the nature of our business, which has a lot of variables, takes a lot of time, and costs a lot of money, right? It's just
and that's why the pre-construction process is so important. And I think, the marketplace is slowly figuring that out, but there's a lot of people out there who don't really understand and value, like, how important all the stuff that happens before hammers show up to start breaking walls, how vital that is to the success of the project. Because, the last thing you want is your contractor, who doesn't really have a pre-construction process and has a set of blueprints, maybe from an architect or something, and they get to where it's like, okay, Monday we're going to start setting tile for the shower. Where's the tile? And the client's like, what do you mean? Well, I need you to go pick tile. Here, go to the shower. And you realize there's 4,000 choices of tile. Like, how am I supposed to do this, right? But it has to be there Monday because the tile guy's coming. And that's the experience a lot of people, have had in the past. And
it doesn't work. Yeah.
It doesn't work. It's a recipe for disaster and low satisfaction with the project when it's over. If you're going to spend that kind of money, you want it to be right. And so it's just a matter of people understanding that value that a robust front end process has, like the kind you guys have and the kind that we're trying to build as well. That
it takes a lot of people.
It takes people. It takes hours. We routinely have, and I know you guys don't really self-perform a lot of your carpentry, but we have our own carpenters. So like we routinely will have as many design hours before construction as we will in carpentry for the project. You know, it's amazing how that tends to work out. But
Well, Dave, we're over time, and they're doing construction right out my window. I don't know if you can hear that or if the people.
it just sounds like they just turned on a tree shredder or something.
Yeah, they're sawing. We're having some masonry work done, so they're sawing some stone. So sorry about that, everyone. That's why it's officially live, right? I should hold up the daily newspaper so people believe. But Dave, this is so awesome, man. Could listen to you all day. Really, really appreciate it. And might see you this afternoon. Are we doing our old Neptune get together?
Yeah, I'm planning on getting on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can hop on. We'll see how the rest of the day
Awesome.
shapes up. Last question. You got 6 beautiful guitars behind you. Which one's your favorite?
Well, that one. My Les Paul, and I'll show you really fast. And we can end with this. It's got my Nirvana backstage pass taped to the back. When I got to interview Kurt Cobain back in 1991.
No way.
And so I stuck my press pass on the back of this guitar. I bought it new in 1989, and it's literally in my will, that guitar to go to my oldest son. The rest of them, they can fight over them or sell them. I don't care. That one is getting passed down to Elliot. So that's my favorite.
You've never told me that you interviewed Kurt Cobain. I think we should have led with that. Have to be our next.
Go on Quora and look me up on Quora, and I wrote the whole story on there.
Oh, okay. I'm going to check it out. And on that note, other than that, if people want to find you, what's their best way to find you?
To find me, I mean, through my website, HerculesDesignBuild.com, or if anyone wants to email me for whatever reason, I guess, David@HerculesDesignBuild.com.
Awesome.
If your wife or your mom, want to reach out for anything. And man, if you're ever down in St. Louis, dude, you better let me know so we can at least, grab a cocktail or go to a hockey game or something.
I like it. Yeah, I got to figure out a way because I never got to see your operation. So we'll have to figure that out sometime soon. Thanks, Dave. Much appreciated, man. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, this was fun.
Later.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.